Welcome in. It's another episode of Nick and Friends, and we're joined by a very special guest tonight. But before I go ahead and introduce our guest, I want to thank the fine folks at the Carpe Diem team at Nebraska Realty for just sponsoring and all their support throughout this podcast. Whether you're looking for a new place to call home or trying to sell your current home, you want to make it as easy as possible. So use a realtor that works hard so that you don't have to. Give the Carpe Diem team of Nebraska Realty a call today at 402-429-8121 for all your residential and commercial needs. As you guys know, 402-464-5685, the Honda and Lincoln hotline and the Starter Heyman text line are ways to get involved in the show, as well as on the Starter Heyman Jewelers video stream, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and then Allo Channel 951. So as you guys know, and we've kept a somewhat of a baseball theme the first couple episodes, we're going to continue on as we're joined by Fletcher Zorns. Now, Fletch, or Coach Zorns, as I always had to call him, not always had to, I should say, but he coached me at Pius all 4 of my years, and we've stayed in touch, and now he was just announced as the new head varsity baseball coach at Lincoln Northeast High School here. Fletch, Coach Zorns, good to talk to you, man. How's life been? Tell me how's it going, man?
Thanks for having me on, Nick. Things are going great. Obviously, last summer here now coaching with Union Bank and Trust and our Pius Senior Legion team, but we got districts coming up on, I guess we start Saturday. So been, I'd say, a fairly successful summer for us so far. So things are going good. It's pretty exciting that, news coming out last Friday that, I get to take over for Lincoln Northeast. And I'm very, very excited about that opportunity.
We're definitely going to talk quite a bit about the new opportunity, right? Because we always want to look forward. But let's go ahead and tell just the listeners a little bit about yourself, because you have been involved with Pius baseball for a pretty long time, and you've devoted a lot of time to it. So I definitely want to talk about that and just talk about your experience with them. Tell the listeners, I guess, when you got there. Talk about your playing career, things like that. What should people know about you?
So I graduated from Pius in 2013. So I was part of the 2012 Class B state championship team and the 2013 Class B runner-up. We were, I'd say, a very successful team in that run. We had guys like Jake Schleppenbach and Tom Schneider and Tony McWilliams. And I think of the 12, we had 12 seniors in that class. And I want to say like 8 went and played college baseball. So we were really, really close group, and we were really successful baseball wise. And then obviously the years that followed, some of those guys like Michael Hellman in his class, or Ryan Cordum and his class, those groups that won state, we were pretty close with those groups as well. So it's been, I started coaching even at Pius in 2015. So I only had really one summer off of not being involved with Pius since 2010, which is kind of wild to think about. But yeah, it has been a long stretch for sure.
Now, it'd be wrong for both of us, and we were kind of talking a little bit before we started going here about Coach Scharf and how he decided to step down after, I believe, 17 years. He had over 260 wins, had 9 appearances in the state tournament, just a legendary coach. And you said something that really resonated with, I think, a lot of us as former players under Coach Scharf, that it was, you don't understand until 5 or 10 years down the road why coaches maybe say and operate the way they do, until you get into that moment. You're like, okay, now I get it. Now I understand. I mean, talk about the impact that Coach Scharf, Troy Scharf, had on you as a player, and then also giving you your start as a coach.
So I love Troy. He's been an absolute godsend for me. I mean, I don't think the success that he had was by, it wasn't by surprise. It was because that man put in a lot of work and into, baseball, but he also put a lot of work into us and making sure that we were kind of on the right path. I think, the best quality that he's had maybe as an older player and now in the past, what is it, like 8, almost 9 years coaching, is that he has always like listened to what we've had to like say. He's never, for someone that you just said it, he's won so many games and been in all these state tournaments. He never once was like, well, I know what we're going to do, and this is going to be the way that we do it. He's always had a growth mindset with everything baseball related, how we train in the off season, how we, form our practice plans. And he has always been really open and receptive to change in those things. If we can basically say like, hey, these are what we think is going to work. And that's a quality that I don't think maybe a lot of coaches that have had as much success as him maybe have. And it's been something that has been just truly amazing to be a part of as part of his coaching staff, because I mean, you talk about a guy that does it the right way 100% of the time. That's Troy Scharf.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable. You read some of Coach Scharf's accolades: 264 and 157 through 17 seasons. He qualified for state 9 times. They won 3 state titles and finished runner-up twice. 4 consecutive Class B state championship games from 2012 to 2015. And you mentioned it. You were a part of one of those in 2012 as a player. And I just think, like, I find that perspective so fascinating, because obviously when I was a player from, 2015 to 2019, already 5 years removed almost, like, it's that perspective is so fascinating to me, because we just expect, like, you guys to be there at 6 a.m. to open up the weight room. And we just expect you guys to have this plan for whether we're outside at practice in late February or early March before we get ready for games, whether we're outside because it's nice weather and it's actually a 63-degree day, or whether it's pouring rain or even snow at times and we're inside in the gym, formulating a plan to cater to whatever, to try to get us ready. We don't know all that. We just expect it to be done still at the high school level. And so when you talk about just the consistency with Troy Scharf, it's not surprising, and how he operated his baseball program, that Pius had so much success under his leadership.
100%. I mean, talk about a guy that has a plan for whatever, whenever, like whatever space limitations we had plenty at Pius.
Yeah.
We made it work, and we made it work really well. And I never felt like there was really a day where it's like, well, let's just roll the balls out and, maybe get a couple ground balls. And, we were always doing a lot. And that's, I feel like that's the only way that I know how to run a practice or do anything, because like I just got back from practice. We were from 12:30 to 2:10, and I was the only coach that could be there. And we still had guys doing infield fundies and hitting, and then switch and outfield fundies and hitting. And then we had situational ABs on the field. So it's like, with any limitations, I've definitely learned from Coach Scharf, like, we can make space work and we can make bodies work. Like, we just got to be on top of what we're doing and do it at a really high level. And
I think part of that's like accountability, though, like accountability from top to bottom. And I'm sure obviously you went through it as a player, and now, I mean, I can even attest to it now, where it's like freshman year, day one, we're holding you accountable whether you like it or not, because then you're going to start to hold yourself accountable. And once you hold yourself accountable, you can hold other people accountable. And and you can be okay with them holding you accountable, right? Because it's always not the greatest thing to hear, hey, dude, pick it up. Like, get your bleep done, right? And so I think when you talk about that, if coaches aren't able to be there, having that accountability throughout the entire team, and leadership obviously plays a part in this, to where it's you can send a group off and do some infield fundamentals while you work on hitters or while you work on pitchers and PFPs and things like that. But also part of that lies on the coach, right? And that's you guys. And so I think that's a huge part of it.
Yeah, I think the accountability part is definitely something that we've always tried to instill with those younger groups. And, you know, PJ Buck, Austin Elm, Alex Hain, everyone that all of the assistants kind of in the years that I coached, Coach Drake even, all the assistants that helped out in some capacity, that was always a focus, was that the freshmen and sophomores need to know what high level baseball looks like. They need to know what pressure situations look like. They need to know what being in adverse situations look like and responding to it and failing and succeeding and learning from it and growing. And that only better suited us as players when we got to varsity as, you know, mostly juniors and seniors, and you're thrown into those very same positions, but I at least have something to, you know, kind of bank off of, that I've worked hard in those previous situations and I've been held accountable. And when, you know, space limitations, coach limitations, because life pops up, whatever happens, we know the standard that we're supposed to play at. And that's kind of my hope now as a coach, is that they all know what the standard is and what it takes to be successful. And obviously the more guys that you can have on a team that are, you know, kind of building toward that, or maybe have the makeup to have to get on some guys sometimes, or, you know, be okay with holding others accountable. The more guys you have like that, the better. And, you know, we've got a lot of, you know, senior guys on our team right now that do that. You know, any amount of successful teams we've had in the past, it's always been, you know, a handful of guys per team that are willing to hold each other accountable, willing to hold themselves accountable to a very, very high standard. And I remember telling even your group, which, I mean, your freshman team was the second year I coached. I always felt like I was telling you guys, like, here's the standard. Here's where you guys are at. We're not lowering it. You guys got to get up here. And at some point that, you know, that starts to click for young men, because it's really easy to shy away from adversity and shy away from tough situations, because, you know, it would be really easy. I think Heidemann says this a lot. He said, it would have been easier if we just cut you day one. You never would have had to go through any of the pressure situations. You wouldn't have to go through all the 6 a.m. liftings or the morning throwings, and invested so much time and effort into it. And once guys start to kind of realize, like, oh, I do have a lot of time and effort and, you know, friendships that I've invested in through just baseball, then that's kind of when that transition starts. And, you know, like I said, that was always really the focus, was that those young groups, we really got to do that early. And then when they are juniors and seniors, it's not necessarily like lowering the standard, but those guys know what the standard is. And so sometimes you got to remind them, but those guys also are the ones setting the standard for the younger guys, and that snowballs and builds off of each other constantly.
Once again, we're talking to Fletcher Zorns, one of my old coaches from my time playing high school baseball, but now the new head coach for Lincoln Northeast High School. Just announced, was it last week? I don't know. The days are all starting to kind of come together. Was it last week that it was officially? So anyway, I guess real quickly, I mean, how enjoyable is it from your perspective now as a coach? Because now you've had a good sample size year after year, where it's that recurring cycle of, all right, we instill it in the freshmen, and then by the time they're juniors, they're instilling it in those freshmen. And just this recurring cycle of growth. I feel like that's probably a big reason why you get into coaching, and a lot of the things that you just said right there.
Yeah, I mean, the last, I'd say, 2 or 3 years, you know, these groups that we've had, have really kind of risen to that standard, and they, it's so rewarding to see guys starting to like say the same things that we say as coaches when they can't, they don't know that I hear them saying it. Like if I'm in the weight room and, some guys are doing plyos or bands and stuff in the wrestling room right there, which, I mean, there's a very small space between it, and I can, someone's not maybe taking it seriously, and one of the juniors or seniors go over and it's like, hey, like, that's not how we do this. And I don't have to say anything. I mean, when you build that accountability among team, like the team, you're in such a great spot as a coach, because then, it's all player driven. I mean, good teams can be coach driven. Great teams aren't coach driven. Great teams are player driven and coach aided. And I think that the last few years, especially, we've had some groups that have been very player driven, and guys that want to get after it, and they want to, work in the off season, and they want to, bust their tail at practice. And when they see guys not meeting the standard that they hold themselves to, they're going to get on them. And, we all obviously make sure that that's not, like a spot where someone maybe feels singled out, but it's, it's also a thing. It's like, hey, we're all in this together. The same standard holds for all of us. And sometimes people have to be reminded of what that looks like. And that's totally fair, because we're talking about high school kids. Like, I don't remember, I'm sure you would say the same thing. As a high school kid, I definitely didn't hold myself accountable all the time. And that's really hard to do. And sometimes you need reminders sometimes from coaches, but hopefully from peers, about what that standard looks like.
Well, it means more, right? If you're like a 17-year-old and another 17-year-old is getting on you and making it known to where other players and your teammates can hear it, you're gonna respond. I know I did, because there were times I know I did where it was like, well, dang, I don't want that to happen again. I don't want to be that dude.
Yeah.
And that's the worst feeling I think that you can have as an athlete, when somebody that not only you respect, but you go through that day-to-day grind with every single day, whether that's a coach or a teammate, nothing burns you more. If you truly care and you truly have a competitive spirit, nothing kills you more than getting called out for you not doing the job.
Well, and typically it's because you didn't do it. And
exactly,
like, I know I wasn't working hard. I know I wasn't taking that rep seriously. And I don't like that someone saw me going 50% on that. And
no, they caught me.
Oh, exactly. And it's like, oh, well, it's very easy sometimes too for kids to take that correction and that reminder of the standard and be like, well, coach this, or, this other player that. And it all just stems from that like embarrassment of, I know that I should have been doing X, Y, or Z, or I know that I shouldn't go 50% on this, and I don't like that I got called out. And, I think, again, building that camaraderie between guys, and hopefully, getting guys to that point where they feel comfortable holding each other accountable. It's not an easy thing to do, but it's definitely a necessary thing for teams that want to be great.
Yeah. Once again, we're talking to Lincoln Northeast varsity head baseball coach Fletcher Zorns, also going to be teaching there. Is it social studies? Is that the subject?
Well,
what are we doing?
I'm teaching at Lincoln High this year. Yeah.
Oh, Lincoln High.
Yeah,
okay, so you're doubling up.
Yeah. So that all gets figured out mostly in like March and April, kind of right after spring break. So, I had no idea kind of leading into, this summer where that was going to take me. But yeah, I mean, I will be teaching at Lincoln High.
Yeah. So why Lincoln Northeast baseball? What drove you to accepting the job? What was, because I mean, you had opportunities, right? And rightfully so. I've texted. I mean, we've been texting back and forth and stuff like that. Why ultimately Lincoln Northeast? Was that the place that you wanted to become a head coach?
So I, when I interviewed with our athletic director, Matt Uhair, I really felt like his kind of vision for what he wants Northeast athletics to look like and what it can be going forward. I really bought into kind of his vision for what Northeast can be. Northeast has had historic success, maybe not in the last 5-10 years as much, but I mean, look back to 2012, that same year that I was part of the Class B state championship. Lincoln Northeast was the runner-up in Class A to Creighton Prep. So they're not that far removed from having some very talented groups. And honestly, in the last couple of years, I'm pretty sure you talked about it last year on your show. We played Northeast and we beat them like 3-2 in like 11 innings.
Yeah.
And I think, I've seen the talent there, and I've seen the level of. Oh, there goes my dog.
That's all right.
I've seen the level of talent, and I've seen how competitive they are, and it made it a pretty easy decision to say like, this is something that I want to be a part of. Especially considering kind of the vision that our athletic director Matt Uhair had kind of talked with me about.
I got to be honest, and I've said this to like some of my friends and obviously former teammates of mine. We've talked and stuff over the last couple of weeks because it's a weird situation with Pius going through a coaching change, and all we've known is Coach Scharf, and all we've known is you and Coach Hain and Coach Elm. You guys are there as assistants, so it's a sad time. I think is okay to characterize it that, because it's kind of an end of an era. But it's super exciting to obviously see you finally get the chance that you deserve as a head coach at the varsity level, because obviously you've been a head guy at reserve and JV and stuff like that. So yeah. I guess one thing that we always talked about how we appreciate with you is that right when I was playing, it was like the medicine ball and the weighted ball and the pitching fun. Like, although I was never a pitcher, and we can talk about that later.
Yeah, that was a rough go.
Yeah, that was. We'll talk about that. Don't worry. And so I don't know, but like I remember you were always on top of research and learning new things, and always wanting to figure out what was the best for our program and whether or not guys should be doing certain drills and things like that. I mean, why were you so dead set on being that guy for whoever you're coaching? Because that's not going to change whether you're Pius, whether you're Northeast, whether you're Southeast Community College. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. So I felt like as a coach that I wanted to make Pius at the time. I wanted to make everything that we did somehow better. I don't think that any coach that gets into it thinking like, I'm just going to do the same thing that we did 10 years ago. Like, no one's going to be very successful in that role. I think that I always just wanted to find, the best way to do something. And so like you talked about the weighted balls and the throwing program stuff. I mean, when we were doing our morning throwing stuff, no fault to the coaches at the time, because obviously it worked very well for us, but it was also not super organized. It was like, yeah, we'll just kind of come in and throw, and, maybe like third week we'll get into some flat grounds, and, maybe like week 5 we'll throw a bullpen. It just felt really disorganized and disjointed. So, right away, how can I make this thing that is important better? So how can we kind of maybe standardize what we do every day? How can we make sure that, we're building longevity and arm health and staying competitive with that at the same time? I think it was really all just like I wanted to take something that I got so much out of and helped me so much as a player. I mean, if you would have told me that I was going to, go play college baseball at any point when I was a freshman, I would have told you like that'd be a cool dream, but I didn't think that was a realistic possibility. And obviously I was lucky enough to go do that. But I think the biggest thing that always drove me was I want to make everything as good as possible for all of you guys, because you guys deserve whatever the best version of this looks like all the time. And that's not just staying stagnant, and that's not staying in the past and relying on, well, we won state a couple of years ago, so we should just be really good. That's taking, what other coaches are doing and taking, reading a bunch of stuff from Tim Corbin and, reading stuff from even like Eric Peterson at Benedictine, and like seeing stuff that he's doing on social media. And I got turned on to a podcast really early from the ABCA, where they were always interviewing coaches, and Jeremy Sheetinger did that one. And he always was bringing coaches on that were talking about all these new things that they were doing. And these are uber successful coaches at the highest level of amateur baseball that you can even comprehend. Like, why would we do the same thing we did 5 years ago if Texas and Vanderbilt and LSU and all these guys are talking about how much they're growing and learning new things about how to, run a program? So it only came and will continue to come from my desire to make sure that we're doing the best things possible for our guys, to put them in positions to succeed, on the field, but also, succeed when, baseball's inevitably over.
I guess so. Good way to segue, or a good place to segue now, like arm health, right? Heck, I just talked about it earlier this week because I'm not sure if you saw one of my tweets, but it was there's an 8 and under team just a little bit east of Lincoln that's playing 60 games in the season. And I understand, like, and the replies are a little fiery from all sides. And I've just kind of like backed up just to observe a little bit. But like, that's what worries. I think me, now that I'm done playing and obviously have gained and learned a lot more about just the game of baseball and arm health and how to take care of arms and proper rest and proper recovery. How often are you seeing injuries like from freshmen, right? Because I remember coming in, and you guys decided day one, and thank the Lord that you decided day one that I was not a pitcher. I was outside. I will never forget watching film. You weren't in there for this, but we were watching film in Coach Sharp's office, and you're a freshman. You're just like, and I'm sure there were internal conversations about each of us prior to Coach Sharp telling us what we were destined to hear. But I remember it was Coach Sharp was having all of us throw a flat grounder off the mound in the gym. And I was so far outside 90 degrees. And I remember he goes, Nick, if we pitch you a couple innings, your UCL might blow up. And I was like, oh man, this is not what I want to hear. And I was never a pitcher in high school, and thankfully so. How often are you seeing that, where guys, when they come in, don't know proper arm health, proper arm care, recovery, things like that?
So it's been kind of interesting in the last couple of years, like running the camp, is like part of our pitching stuff is like a couple of the days, like we'll just start off with like, here's how we kind of just progress through our arm care stuff. And like, I'd say 5-6 years ago, the amount of kids that knew what a J band was little to none. And in recent years, to some of the 14, 13U, 12U coaches, to their credit, they've been implementing a lot more of that, because I feel like it's maybe becoming a little more public, and they're seeing guys do that all the time, and they're even seeing high school teams do it. So there's more and more kids that have an understanding of it coming in as a freshman, which is really refreshing because then it saves us having to explain like the importance of it and trying to, get even a little bit of buy-in to that process because it does take time. I think there's more kids that know generally about that kind of stuff now. The extent of why we do it or maybe just the overall importance of it, I don't think is there yet, just again, because they're 14, 15 years old. Yeah. But I think for the most part, we've had a pretty good amount of success with guys not getting hurt and keeping guys' arms healthy. And, outside of a couple guys that, had just, some very typical weird baseball injuries, we've kept guys healthy. And that's been, definitely a focus of mine because I wasn't able to stay healthy, but I was also really dumb with my arm when I was in college. And I want to make sure, that we give these guys the guidance they need to make smart decisions with their arms. And, I was just talking with Alex Hain about it. Like we do a lot more, even just like defense work. Like we'll emphasize really good catch play at the, whenever we do get to catch, but when we get to defense, sometimes we won't make throws. Sometimes, we're just going to field it and eat it. And that's going to be it. And that's going to be our infield work for the day. Or, we're not going to tax guys' arms and making a bunch of throws to home plate where, maybe 10, 15 years ago is like, well, we need the reps, like we need the defensive reps. So we need to see it, and finding different ways to get those reps in lower, I guess, stress situations on guys' arms has been something that's been really helpful for us just for keeping guys' arms healthy.
All right. Now it's time. Favorite team you've ever coached. And there is a right answer here. Because you know exactly which one I'm there. You know exactly the team I'm talking about.
I know you're wanting me to say the 2016 Driven team.
That's right.
The one. What do we go, like 22-19? That was a pretty fun group. That was a fun group.
That was just my best season overall. That's the reason I brought.
I can pull up the stats right now on Game Changer. You hit like 450. You still have the stats? Oh yeah, it's still pulled up. You want me to? I'll make it public for everyone to.
Yes, please do. Because I can clip this and put it on Twitter here.
Perfect. So you had let's see, you played in 36 games. You hit 509. Your OPS was 1359. You had 6 triples and 17 doubles. So for all your listeners, at some point Nick was fast.
No, I don't know if I was fast. I just think maybe the kids in the outfield. Yeah, I just hit it far enough. And a lot of I don't know if you remember this. Obviously, that's the one I hang my hat on, which I hang my hat on to like some extent because of the level it was at. But I had a lot of opposite field hits. I hit the ball better to the right side of the field.
Yeah, you burned a lot of right fielders.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially on those reserve teams. If you can burn a right fielder, a triple is very easily attainable. I will say at the same time, you did have 4 innings pitched that summer. Third, and 7 earned runs, 9 walks, 2 hit by pitches for an ERA of 11.3. So, yeah.
Somebody say Cy Young. Well,
yeah.
I don't know. The worst part of that season was when I took 2 straight pitches off the throat, off the Adam's apple, behind the plate, and on the second one, yes, you went. I took the first one, and I was like, I'm fine. I get back in there, I take a second straight pitch down off the throat on the same spot. And I like gingerly walk back to the dugout, and I just had to like hold on to the railing because I was about to fall.
I need a sub. I remember that.
Gosh, that was
Yeah,
not my brightest time. I don't know what happened to my hitting, because by the time I was a junior and senior, I couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. I couldn't do
yeah,
anything.
usually once
I
pitchers start throwing breaking balls, that's kind of the
yeah,
separator.
that was the issue. Okay, well, coach, I guess last thing, just overall thoughts. I mean, on getting to coach and start coaching Lincoln Northeast. This definitely won't be the last time I ever have you, either whether it's on the podcast that airs at 6 p.m. on Fridays, or whether it's the show during the season.
Yeah.
Just overall thoughts on your journey, and the coaches. We barely got to talk about some of the coaches that you got to coach with, but because I know there's a lot of special relationships there, and I know that because I still get to stay in contact with you guys, and I try to make it out for a game or so every now and then, and stay in touch, especially with you, Coach Alex Hain, and Coach Alex Heidemann as well. Because you guys played a huge part, and you continue to do it, whether you're at Pius, whether you're coaching baseball, whether you're at Northeast. And so just overall thoughts, and just on your journey so far.
I am incredibly thankful for, having the opportunity to coach with someone like Troy Scharf. The lessons learned are something I'm going to take with me for the rest of my life in coaching, and for a lot of my life outside of coaching. Whether that was as a player, or as an assistant coach for him. And then you mentioned it, like the relationships built with guys like PJ Book, and Austin Elm, and Brian Drake, and Alex Hain, and Micah Hogue, and Ryan Corda, Ben Schneider on reserve with us. I mean, those guys are some of my friends,
Yeah.
and those are people that I have a lot of respect for, and if I ever need anything, I can count on them to kind of give me guidance, or to help me in some way, because that's just how our relationship has always been. So I'm super thankful for the opportunities that I've had, and the people that I've coached with, and all the kids that I've gotten to coach. I mean, you guys are the reason that I wanted to show up at 6 a.m. to open the weight room. Like I wanted to be there for you guys. And so, all the different groups, I mean, there's probably over 100 guys now, which is weird to think about, that, have graduated and gone on to, the adult real life, or still in school, or, going to be graduating, or guys that are still in the program there, that, I'm really thankful for the relationships built with you guys, because you guys are what makes it fun. And I wouldn't keep showing up, if I didn't like being around, all of, our players. So yeah, I'm really thankful for the time that I've had at Pius. I've learned a lot. I've made some of the best friends that I've ever had in my life. I've coached some absolutely amazing kids, and I could not be more excited to start this new chapter at Lincoln Northeast, and take over a program that I really think has a lot of promise going forward, and has a lot of guys already in it that know what good baseball looks like. And that's a testament to guys over there, like Kyle Parker and Drew Byer, and guys that have helped build some of these guys into hopefully the great athletes and great young men that we're going to continue to build and help become even better young men going forward.
Yeah, it's really cool, because I mean, obviously we did not play together, obviously, and it's only been the player coach type of relationship between us.
Yeah.
But as Pius navigates like the coaching change, and as they move to this new era, obviously, like there's definitely a lot of caring that plays a factor into it. And people will say, oh, it's just high school baseball, like close the yearbook. Like they'll say that, but those aren't the people that spent hundreds of days and hundreds of hours in the weight room at 6 a.m. and on the practice field doing the stupid conditioning that we called stupid at the time, but now I need some of it. Like the conditioning, like unfortunately, like they just weren't there, and you don't get it unless you were there, and that goes for multiple sports, multiple places, multiple schools. If you were truly invested, you're going to care for a lot longer than when you're just playing.
Yeah, I think, we all as kind of Pius baseball alumni have that kind of shared experience of what hard work is, and knowing, that we can all work harder than maybe we think we can. I mean, we all went through Survivor Saturday. Like we all went through, like you said, tough conditionings and being held to a standard. But we're all so much better off for it as baseball alumni. And again, as a coach, it's like that. I want that for you guys, and I want that for our guys now. And I want all these players that I've had or will have to understand like this is a lot more than just baseball that we're trying to do. There's a lot more lessons in all of what we're trying to accomplish than trying to make sure that we can cover the plate on 0-2, or that I'm standing behind the bag on double plays. Like it's not always just about that. It's about can I always do little things right, and can I make sure that I'm doing those things to the best of my ability all the time? Because then when we get into our real lives and baseball is not an option anymore, can I continue to do little things right? Can I be a good teammate to people? Can I be someone that can be relied on, and someone that's accountable to a standard? And I think all of those things are so translatable for everyday life that we're all so much better off as baseball alumni for it. And I told all our guys, it's like you want to be somewhere where you feel really valued, and you want to be somewhere that you feel like you are being made a priority. And I think that we do a really good job of doing that with a lot of our guys, and telling them our why. Why do we do X, Y, or Z drill? Why do we do extra innings? Why do we do Survivor Saturday? And having that standard kind of met, and having that backdrop of what all of it looks like, it makes it obviously a lot easier for us as coaches. Coach Hayne and I, being baseball alumni ourselves, like we can speak to that testament very easily and saying like there's a lot behind this veil of baseball that you guys are going to hopefully take with you well past your playing days for us. So
yeah, that was one of the biggest lessons I learned was and I think a lot of guys, is that when you think you can't go anymore, you actually can. Those mental lessons internally that you just battle with yourself, those internal battles, I guess, are just when you find out more about yourself, there's no better feeling. Once again, we're joined by Fletcher Zorns, new coach of Lincoln Northeast, the baseball team. After a long tenure being an assistant at Pius, he coached me from 2015 to 2019 as well. And as we wrap up, want to thank the folks over at Carpe Diem team of Nebraska Realty. Give them a call today for any of your residential or commercial needs at 402-429-8121. Fletch, Coach, I don't even know what to call you anymore. Sometimes it's Fletch, sometimes it's Coach. Perfect. Fletch it is. Appreciate you joining me, man. This was a lot of fun. I kept you longer than what I told you I was going to keep you, so I'm glad that thanks for sticking around. And thanks to the listeners for checking out another episode. Make sure you, if you missed any of it, you can go back on the Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, or Twitter pages and check it out. If you have any thoughts, you can always chime into the show as well. 402-464-5685. Fletch, we'll have you on definitely down the road. We got to get you on the show during the day. And summertime, maybe needs to be the time to do it, since you're not going to be teaching over at Lincoln High.
Yeah, summertime works great.
Perfect. All right. Well, once again, that's Fletcher Zorns. Nick Sainer saying so long for another episode of Nick and Friends. Enjoy the weekend. We'll talk to you guys next week right here, 6 p.m. on 93.7 The Ticket.